business owner stuck in fear, doubt, and worry about what the marketplace will look like in the future? Then this show is for you. Strap on your seatbelt and get ready to disrupt and innovate. Here's your host, Lisa Levy.
Today on Disrupt and Innovate, I am thrilled to welcome Amos Schwartzfarb, founder of RetroCause. Amos's journey began in the Bronx and led him to the rugged world of professional adventure racing before he conquered the startup landscape. With 7 successful startups under his belt, including Hot Jobs and Business.com, he is a master of product market fit and scaling sales organizations. He's the best-selling author of Sell More Faster and Levers. Amos shares his frameworks that build repeatability and exponential growth, and we're going to talk more about that. So get ready for an engaging conversation about high-stakes leadership and building business success. Amos, welcome to the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
I am very excited to be here. We did a little bit of a pre-talk before we started recording, and the rule that we set is we have no idea where this conversation is going to go. Audience, enjoy whatever it is we come up with today. To get us started, will you describe for us what it is that you're doing with RetroCause and how what you're doing today is so important in the business world?
May I redirect us for 10 seconds? You said something really interesting in the intro that I think is relevant to what I'm doing with RetroCause. So you said I conquered the startup world or the entrepreneur. I don't remember the exact words you used. I don't know that anyone can conquer that world. I think we learn how to surf it. And that's the best we can do is surf it the best we can. And sometimes the waves get huge and it gets rough and we just have to figure out if we wipe out, how do we not drown? Pop up and surf again.
I love that. That's fabulous.
Awesome. So essentially, I'll try to do the short version to how I got there because I think a little bit of context is helpful. In my career, for those of you who don't know me, I started out not in the startup world, but I got myself involved very early on in the mid 90s. And I've been an operator and or a founder at several different companies over the course of close to 20, actually a little more than 20 years. And then I became an early stage VC at Techstars for 8 years. And now I work only with founders. And so the biggest thing that I've learned that is meaningful and valuable to me over that time is that starting a company is really hard. Let's say it's really obvious, but until you've actually done it and you've been in the trenches and multiple times, it's hard to really fathom how hard it is. And even when you've done it before, we all have, selective memory and we don't remember. So it's really, really hard. And particularly when you're a founder and particularly when you're a CEO, it is really lonely also. And what I've learned over the 30 plus years of my career is that I get the most joy and can provide the most value now in helping founders and CEOs feel less alone, less out of control, meaning they have more clarity and more focus and direction so that they can become the best versions of themselves and or build the best versions of whatever it is that they're trying to do. So that is what I am doing in a nutshell with RetroCause.
And it is so important. And I want to reiterate something that you said. Starting is hard. People think that it's not, right? I'm going to go start a business. That's the one that'll get you wrapped around the axle going, what was I thinking? I myself am an owner operator and the start was so hard, right? I'm 18 years in and I'm not leaving because we got it working. I don't want to do that start thing again. That's fantastic. With the work that you do, talk to us a little bit about the framework, what it is that you've learned over the 20 to 30 some odd years that you are applying to help those founders and CEOs not be lonely.
Yeah. So I'll say I've learned bits along the way. And when I describe to you what the frameworks are, so it's like 5 framework or 6 frameworks inside of a master framework. What I will not bury the lead with is I am not telling you or anyone out there anything that they don't already know that they need to do. What I have done, what we have done, because I had some help with this book, is we have figured out a way, not the only way, a way to answer really important questions that are imperative to figuring out how do you build and run a long-term and sustainable business. So there will be no surprises. And the reason why I wrote this book is because there is literally nothing else like it out there. It is a playbook. It is a book a book you read. If there had been another version of it out there, I promise you I would not have spent the time writing a book. It's hard to write a book. We couldn't find anything else like it out there. And the other thing I say before I take you through the framework is I don't really care when I work with someone whether they follow our frameworks or not. It's the questions that need to be answered that is important. So if you have your own way to get there, great. You get there your way. We still have to answer these questions. So there's 6 pieces to the framework. 5 of them, the reason I sometimes juggle between 5 and 6 is 5 of them are about data and information. One of them is not, but that one that is not is the thing that guides everything, which is, do you have a clearly stated vision and mission? I don't really care if you can say it to the public in an articulate way. Can you say it out loud in a way that somebody will understand? Because that becomes your guiding principle for all of the data-driven things that you have to do in order to be successful. So that's the first one.
Pause for a second. One
Okay.
of the things that I love about the approach, this is not the only way, right? This is what you put on paper. It is common sense. One of the things that I have conversations with people about all the time is this isn't rocket science. Most leadership skills and traits and things and capabilities are things we're all supposed to know and understand how to do. But having a guide and a framework to get there is fantastic. And we'll dig into the next 5 parts, starting with, can you articulate your vision and mission? For those of us who are consultants or those who have leveraged and used consultants, this is like, okay, yeah, we're at like 101 entry here. Really? That's where you start? Yes, that is absolutely where you have to start. So I wanted to get on my soapbox for a moment and say thank you for reiterating that the basics exist and the foundational elements are there for a reason. And now I'll say, okay, Amos, what's the next step in the
May I
framework?
stand on your soapbox with you for just a moment? Is there
Please.
room for the two of us? I think the thing that many founders take for granted is that the things in their head are understood by their team. And it is why this becomes so crucial. Again, not to say it in a way that the public needs to consume it, marketing, speak, or whatever, but so that the people you're surrounded with understand what is important to the success of the business and how you're trying to change the world you're trying to change. So crucial. It could be ugly said, but it's so crucial to say it.
And right, so I would use the phrase that, you're setting the tone at the top and the need to be able to say that so that you know that every employee, regardless of where they sit in the organization, understands that one thing that's in your head that is the most important is critical. And I love the distinction, right? It's not the big pretty words splashed on the side of the building necessarily, right? The fun marketing stuff, but it's what do you actually mean behind all of that? Okay, so we agree the foundation is simple, right? What is that vision and mission? What are we trying to do? Tone at the top. Founder CEO has to know what it is. It may not sound pretty, but we're on board. What happens next?
Yeah. Awesome. And as I explained it, it's perfect. You said this is not rocket science. This next one is a great description of this is not rocket science, but what it is digging ditches with your hands that are 100 feet deep by 100 feet wide. And it's really, really hard and tedious and annoying and painful, but it's really simple to understand, hard to execute. All of this really. But going into the next one, I call it understanding your W3, which is a way to identify your ICP or why am I forgetting what ICP stands for? Oh my gosh, I've said it a zillion
Your
times.
client, identify your
Profile. Yeah.
avatar.
Yeah. And
Ideal client persona. There we go.
yeah. So it's answering 3 questions. They're all start with a W. Who is your customer? What are they buying from you? Why are they buying it? Let's start with the who. And this is the one I'll go to the deepest on. This is a difference between 2 things. One, assuming that people, your team know what you mean and them actually knowing, and also the difference between rocket science and ditch digging. If I build software for the healthcare industry, it's easy to say I sell to hospitals. That's actually not what I do. It's much, much more specific than that. Who is the person? Is it an IT professional at a hospital that has this in their role, that's been there for this amount of time, that has this in their experience, that has this kind of education, blah, 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 blah. All of the things allow me to understand the very, very specific who of who's going to buy. And when you can prove that, when someone can prove that, they can get a yes 100% of the time. Doesn't mean that when you sell, you're always going to get a yes 100% of the time, but when you don't, you're going to understand why, because they're missing one or more of the characteristics of the perfect ideal customer profile. So the first one is who. The what is really important. I'll do this one quicker, which is it's a difference between what am I selling versus what is someone buying from me. Everyone wants to talk about what they're selling. Your buyer doesn't care what you sell. They care what they're buying. What are you going to do for them? And that gets lost by everybody, me included. And then the last W is why. Why are they buying it? How are they, is it impacting their business? How are they going to measure their why? So this is really, really important. So that's the second one. I'll pause there on that framework.
No, absolutely. So we've set the context. We know our why. We've got our vision and our mission. We are now understanding who our client is, what they need, and why they might want it. What happens next?
Then, sequentially, I call it finding your revenue formula, which is a way to basically prove your business model. At its simplest form, your revenue formula is the math equation of your business. I sell t-shirts. If I sell one t-shirt to one person at $10, I make $10. That's a very simple math equation. Depending on your business, the math equation is going to be a little bit different, but that's the important part of this framework is not the math equation. The math equation is what we're trying to prove right or wrong, but the important part of this is the work that comes underneath it. So if you can imagine a math equation that's horizontal, vertically underneath it are drivers and sub-drivers and sub-sub-drivers, the things that actually move each value in your math equation. And so the framework is identifying all of the known things that have to be true or that we need to prove true or false in order to have the most amount of control on each of the values, our levers.
Yes.
And some of them are going to be not true and some of them are going to be true. And when you can start to weed those things out, then you all of a sudden can say, okay, I know how to pull on my levers and now I know how to maximize my business and what I need to do to evolve it if I want to be bigger than the world will allow me to be.
The audience members are familiar. I love a math equation. I live and die by people plus process times technology equals growth and scale. Right. And so how we build the vertical underneath that is how we define our scope, what it is that we're doing for a client, or what pain points are we solving. All right. So we know our revenue formula. Then what happens?
Before I get there, I love that you said you love a good math equation. I love a good math equation too. I believe that business is nothing more than a complex calculus equation. And I was an English major. So for all of you out there that are fearful of math, whether you'll admit it out loud or not, or to yourself or not, don't stop here. It is okay. The math is actually not that hard once you understand it. The hard part is figuring out what you need to understand. And that's just problem solving. The non-math major, never take a business class, never took an economics class, and that's all I talk about.
And yeah, I will not take us down a rabbit hole on why we are all actually good at math. If we weren't, we would not be in business, and that's a different topic entirely. So once we have their formula, so we have our why, we understand the W3, and we have our revenue formula. What happens?
Okay, the next framework is called validating assumptions. And essentially what it does is it takes all of the things that we've talked about so far from W3, from revenue formula, and it provides the ability to say, okay, what have we also missed? To say what has to be true, or what do we believe has to be true in order for this business to be successful? And when you go through the exercise, it allows you to break all of these things into a quadrant. And the quadrant goes like this. Everything on the bottom side of the quadrant down here is low priority. Everything above the line is high priority. Everything below the line we ignore, period, until it makes it above the line. Really hard for people to do. I like to say it's easy to add things to your list. It's harder to take things away. So this is a forcing function, among other things, to take things away from your list. Everything above the line is now it broken out into validated and unvalidated. Validated, these are the things that we know are true unless something changes. They're the things, the areas where we put time, energy, resources to get to or continue on the path of repeatability and growth. Doesn't matter what stage you are. I don't care if you're a startup with no revenue or product or a $1 billion company, these things will remain true. The other side, the unvalidated, these are the things that we believe need to be true in order to be successful. And our job is not to go build the next feature. It's to prove we earn the right to build the next thing or the next exercise or the next market or whatever it might be. We need to go prove that. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see is like believing that our beliefs are just true and moving them over to validated and then them not being, and then learning all these things after the fact when you could have learned them faster and cheaper. Cheaper could be time cheaper too,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
before you move them over into validated and priority. And when you can do that, then you understand the why behind it, which means going back to revenue formula, you have another lever you can pull on. So that's the next
Yep.
framework.
Fantastic. So in that space, right, that unvalidated, in my world, I would say that that's kind of that place and time where we're going to experiment with the idea. Right? We're going to see what is it, and it's a thought experiment often more than anything else, right? Understand what does it take to make it real, or what are the things that say we really shouldn't make it real, and it's just investing some brain capacity. And obviously, if we're truly validating, right, we'll get some data around it, but it's not going through a full R&D cycle on an idea that we think. Right? It's proving it. We don't invest until we're in that validated quadrant.
That's right. Yeah. Cool. You and I are 100% think the same. Love it.
All right. So we now have validated ideas that are worthwhile. Where do we go from here?
So the next and second to last framework, it's a super important one, and in some ways it's the hardest one, and in some ways it's the easiest one. It's the hardest one up here, and it's the easiest one to execute, and it's also the
Okay.
easiest one to execute wrong because of that.
We have some mental challenge here. Okay.
Which is, what are the KPIs that we use, the leading KPIs we use that help us understand for the high priority items, if they're unvalidated, that we are on a path to validation, or if they're validated, that they are continuing to do the thing that we expect them to do. And the reason I say it's hard up here in the brain is because it is really hard to figure out what is actually telling us the story of predicting the future, not the story that's telling us the past. Yeah.
Leading KPIs are incredibly powerful. And I agree with you. It is so mentally challenging to get us to finding them, understanding them, and then using them. So yeah, once we have the leading KPIs, sorry, I'm still stuttering, leading KPIs, we are in a really good position because, to your words, we are now predicting the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you've probably experienced this too. A lot of times it is like, it becomes scary for someone to say, well, here's our KPI, because what if I'm wrong?
Mm.
What I like to say is, like, guess what? You're going to be wrong. You're going to be wrong 80% of the time. I don't care. Put a line in the sand or put a stake in the ground or whatever, and be wrong, and let that inform us on the path to right. Instead of delaying that and thinking about it for days or weeks or months, like, let's just put something out there and be wrong.
And let's be wrong together for all of the right reasons.
Going back to mission vision, what are we actually trying to shoot for through all the frameworks? Yes.
And we haven't talked on this, but I'm going to take a minute here. Fear of failure. Failure is our greatest opportunity to learn. If we got all of these things right all of the time, everybody would be highly successful, right? There would be, right? We have to take some calculated risks. We have to have KPIs that don't have value. We create things, right, that don't work, and we learn from them. As long as we are aligned with that vision and mission and values, we're doing the right things for the right reasons. And sometimes the outcomes are learning moments, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the way that you said it, the way that, which is almost identical. The way that I usually say it to people is, if you do something and you learned, you are successful. And if you do something you don't know why, you are unsuccessful. That means hitting your goals too. If you hit your goals and you can't tell me why and how to continue to do it, or what, if something changes, what that is, you have failed. I don't care if you blew your goals out of the water.
I like the perspective shift. That's really impactful. All right. We took a left turn, but let's bring it back to the
Yes,
fifth part of the
last
framework.
last framework, and this is, I will say, this is the one that usually causes people to pause out of fear of, I don't have the time, I don't know how to do this, I don't understand. And particularly if you're in the like series A or earlier, or solopreneur, I feel like this is crucial that the CEO or the founder does this and rolls up their sleeves. When you're a little bit later, I think it is fine to have a CFO do this work, but not to be hands off with it, which is to build a financial model that you're using everything from mission vision through KPIs. You basically have done all of the hard work already. You have done all the hard work to build a model. And here's the thing that I think where people often get caught up. They think model, and they're thinking a financial statement that tells me the past and tells me the future based on past that I don't do or don't know. And that is not what I'm saying. And that is not the framework that we use. It is quite literally figuring out what are the mechanics of the business, all of the levers that we can tweak on so that it tells us a plan that if I look at this financial model, it is my financial plan. It is telling me what I need to do on a day by day, week by week, month by month basis, will tell me when I'm on track and off track, will tell me why, and will tell me how to adjust. And that takes time. In the course that we teach, it's a full week of it's more than that. It's almost 2 weeks of the full month is doing that.
I love that financial model. As soon as you said the words financial model, I cringed. Oh my God, we're talking about the numbers again. I might describe it more as the business operating model, but right, it is identifying all of the levers, and that is an important part. It is not the pro forma P&L.
That's correct. It is the business operating model. You're 100% right. Yeah.
Right. And that's, that's that thing that's different. And that's why it's so critical that the first version of this, the beta go to reality, it comes from the founder, it comes from the CEO. Obviously, in a more mature business, you're sort of retrofitting and recreating and showing what is rather than building that new. But when you are greenfield, this is it. And the founder, CEO, they own this because they are the ones that is the final checkpoint to tie back to step number one. Everything that we're doing is aligned to the things that matter to us.
That's right. Yeah.
This is a fantastic framework, Amos. If people who are listening, if members of the audience are curious and they want to learn more, how do they learn more?
There's a couple of ways to reach out to me, and I'm fairly responsive on all of them. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I check LinkedIn all the time. It's where I get, so Amos Schwartzfarb on LinkedIn. You can go to the website, RetroCause.com. You can reach out to me at Amos@RetroCause.com. That's probably the best way to do it.
Okay, and all of those will be in the show notes, so it's easy for people to grab those links and reach out to you.
Can
This
I
has
give you
been
a fun little trivia link or a snippet where
Sure.
the name RetroCause came from?
Yes, please.
It is retrocausality is a physics principle that suggests that the future predicts the present, not the other way around. So if you think
Right.
about the framework, we are predicting the future so that we can predict the present.
That is, so we did math and science today, folks.
English
No,
major here, folks.
nobody signed up for math and science today, but what a fantastic conversation we've had going through the levers and the 6 critical frameworks that will make your business grow and scale predictably for the future that already knows that it's out there, and we just have to figure out in the present how to make it happen. Amos, thank you so much for the conversation. And I love the focus on the founders only, and that through this methodology and the series of frameworks, I won't use the word methodology, that you're really looking for the ability to build a business that ties everything back to that initial thing that is the mission and the vision and the values that the organization is intended to deliver. If we stay focused on that, we can do anything. Audience members, you know my rules. Don't get left behind. Join me next time.
That's it for today's episode of Disrupt and Innovate.